Round 2 here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and what a fantastic day of racing we have ahead of us. And we're about to have the first race of the weekend, which will be the first Focus Radical Cup Australia. It's only fitting that they're the first race because they're first Focus.
You are smooth as the cars head out onto the track, Thomas Randall. We have a rolling start here in our Radical Cup Australia. Already 2 points in the back pocket for Cooper Cutts, courtesy of his pole position from qualifying this morning, but it sets the scene beautifully for another epic weekend of racing in the Radicals, because alongside him is his great rival in this category in Peter Paddon. And what a show they put on in 2024. Came down to the final weekend, the final race, to decide who would take the title. It went the way of Paddon, the veteran, but Cutts is right up alongside him once again this year and pushing for that title. Just 3 points separating them as we enter the first race of the weekend. So there you have it, the start list for race 1. Cooper Cutts, Peter Paddon, Brad Russell in the Bradical. An outstanding performance for him leading our AMs. Mark Brame likewise welcoming him back to the series. Terry Knowles, who had an issue yesterday in practice, has responded well to round out the top 5 from Tim Edgell, who we welcome from Auckland. Zig Fuhrmeister comes back. Ruairdah Avern, storylines everywhere. 17 years of age, across from Western Australia. Our rookie, and he's lighting them up, from Peter Clare and Nick Kelly, who also returns. Then it's Morris, Chirillo, who's been quite unwell, Hadid, Hernandez, Medlin, Hannah, Church, Ivory, Sue Hughes and Chris Reindler. So that is our starting list for the weekend's racing. Cutts, though, who will lead them away from Peter Paddon. Talk us through a rolling start, Tom Randall. What sort of techniques, what's the most important thing to getting it away clean?
Well, to sum it up in one word, Stubbsy, is lively. So there's quite a bit of a procedure for rolling starts. At the moment, while the safety car lights are still on, each class will probably have a set spot where they'll need to grid up, 2x2 formation. Normally here, it'll be out of the hairpin turn 8 where they're approaching as they come out of Corporate Hill turn 7. And the general idea is that the leader will maintain the pace. So it's around about 80 kilometres an hour. And they can accelerate slowly. They can't drop below that speed, and they can't exceed, about 100, 110 kilometres an hour. And the cars that are in second, third, fourth, obviously they can't overtake until there is lights out. And the big one as well is that they actually need to drive over the grid boxes. So that's something that they're quite fond of not comply if you don't comply by that. So as we get through here, the safety car lights are still on, so they're still weaving at the moment. But I was just going to touch on that AM battle that we had in qualifying between Russell, Brame and Terry Knowles. They were separated by literally a tenth, those three. So that was really close between those three. And then that gap between Cutts and Paddon, less than 2 tenths. That is going to be a heck of a battle, and it's probably going to be a battle for the rest of the season and maybe for years to come, Stubbsy.
Yeah. So just an update from Cherise Bristow, who is the category manager, that there was a car stalled getting out of the marshalling that blocked the gate a little bit. That's why it was a bit slow getting out, but everyone's caught up. We're lined up. We're ready to go racing. We still see the red lights. Look for them to go. Cutts, of course, he's starting in front from pole position. 2 points in his pocket against his great rival, Peter Paddon, on the outside in the navy and green. We're looking for lights out to get us racing at the Shannon Speed Series round 2. And away we go. And it looks like Paddon on the outside has made a great start. Almost contact again between the two protagonists. And it's Paddon trying to go the long way around the outside into turn 1. Cutts there, contact again. Tom Randall, it is about to unload.
They're on into turn number 1. Has held it round the outside there, and I think he's just had to settle for second as a few of the cars have run off now onto that extra concrete apron. But it is Cutts that's managed to hold on. Paddon was trying to hang tough around the outside, but he's going to have to settle in for second here.
Oh, turn 1, I was on the rev limiter already as up the inside of Brad Russell there was Avern. So he's made a beautiful start getting himself into third position already. So Cutts having to stick it on the inside. It was Paddon who tried to go around the outside at turn 1. That is a tough place to be in Australian motorsport. We know that. So Cutts now has settled down into almost a half-second lead as this battle further down. Edgell there, our Kiwi competitor who's come across the ditch and doing well, sits now in 4th place. There's a lock-up and a spin. Oh, that's Zig Fuhrmeister. There's a couple of them now going off. Three.
There might be oil down there.
Oil on the track, perhaps. Sue Hughes getting caught up in that as well. Yellow flags were very quickly waving, but no oil flags that we could see. But for 3 or 4 competitors to also spin shows there must have been probably in the background here. Around from Corporate Hill first, it was Zig Fuhrmeister. And then 3, 4 of them. Sue Hughes here in the orange as well will come into shot. Yes, on the inside. So that has really scattered our order. They were all running there towards that top 10 of this pack. And that has skittled the field. It's out the front. Cooper Cutts now leads by just over a second from Peter Paddon.
Thankfully, everyone got away with that pretty cleanly. So lucky that there was no contact between any of the cars, and there was that runoff there out of Corporate Hill. So I think the leaders might have to be careful here, Stubbsy, and hopefully they've maybe had a radio call in to say, look, just be careful at turn 7. We don't know whether there may be something down or after the first spin, maybe it was synchronised spinning or spinning in sympathy. But to have 3 cars go round there within sort of 2 or 3 seconds, normally it's a lack of adhesion. So whether that's come from another category or, I mean, I can't see any smoke dropping from any other cars. So, and we haven't had any rain today, so I'm not sure what's happened there. And the leaders are just going through Corporate Hill now, so hopefully everyone makes it through. So far, so good. There's a bit of grass actually getting off turn 7, so unless someone might have taken too much of that inside curb and grabbed a bit of dirt and grass, and that's created that issue down at turn number 7. But at the moment, it's still green flag waving and everyone's back on the track and running.
So that's the good news, is that it appears that the track is clean, it is safe, and we are racing on. Cutts responding after Paddon set the quickest time we've seen in sector 1, then Cutts did the same in the second and third sectors to set our fastest lap of the race so far, 1:29.4. Bonus point as well for the fastest lap across all 4 races.
Someone who's had a big start is Avern. So he was down in position number 8 for this race, and he's up to 3rd. He got up to 3rd on that opening lap. So that would be, I'd love to see, hopefully they put a GoPro, the team have put a GoPro on that thing. It'd be cool to watch after the race how he's made up 5 spots in the opening lap. So he's gotten up to 3rd position there, and Cooper Cutts at the moment just stretching that margin out now at about 1.7 seconds. And then you've got Russell in 4th, who's leading that AM charge over Nick Kelly and then Brame. And that's all still quite tight at the moment as well.
You mentioned Avern starting from 8th. He would have been a little disappointed with his qualifying efforts here, I think, today. New track for him to come and have a look at, but at Phillip Island, he finished the weekend the Enduro race there in 3rd position. So to be down in 8th, he would have been a little frustrated, I would have thought. So perhaps a bit of red mist, and really, what a first lap that was. Well picked up by you. Cooper Cutts now pressing on with the fastest lap we've seen, or the first 2 sectors of it. Anyway, Tim Edgell, our Kiwi competitor who we've mentioned a couple of times today, if you were with us earlier for qualifying, is in the pits at the moment. So we'll get across that and see what the issue is there for him.
That was an excellent drone shot we just got shown there, looking over the circuit at turn 8. It just shows how tight turn 8 really is, and that is the slowest corner on the track. And if you look beyond that, you can actually see turn 4 and where that cut through is. So it's quite a compact track that we have here at Sydney Motorsport Park. There's a lot of corners and different styles of braking zones.
Oh,
I mean, it's like
Terry Knowles.
Yeah, massive drop off in there, and that's cost him position to Chris Reindler. Reindler's just gone way too deep there and really could have capitalised on that mistake, but he's just gone in way too hot into turn number 2, and it's play on, I guess.
Now Knowles coming down the straight, the Brabham straight, and into turn 1 was right up the rear of Peter Clare. How does it work in the radicals from your time in them and for your understanding of this category of racing in terms of coming down the straight and into turn 1 and the hard stop into turn 2? Is it hard to follow? Dirty air? What's the aero wash like?
Well, generally in these sorts of cars, high aero cars, the closer you are, looks like I just might have spotted maybe a little bit of smoke coming out the back of the Clare car. Sorry to cut you off there, but the closer you follow in higher speed corners, the higher chance of aero wash, which is where the car in front creates that dirty air for the car behind that's following. And turn 1 here, it's a bit bumpy. It's the highest speed corner on the track, so that's a type of corner where you can get a bit of exit understeer, as we call it. And the way that the wind is blowing at the moment, it's a little bit of a cross tailwind into turn 1. So that would also be leading to more push. And that's kind of just what happened for Clare into turn 1. And we both thought that Reindler was going to capitalise on it, but unfortunately just broke a little bit too deep, quite narrow, and they're as they were.
So second time round there, as we discuss it, it was Knowles who kept it on the black stuff that time. So we assume it looks like no damage done, dropping the 2 right-hand side wheels off into the grass. He's escaped and he charges on. So cuts from Paddon, Avern, Russell, Kelly, Brame, Clare, Knowles, Reindler and Morris rounding out the top 10 at the moment.
It looks like Edgel's got back out on the track as well. So unfortunately, he is a lap down, but that's good that they've got that car back out. You see him move down into turn number 8 there. So just see as they cross the timing line, it looked like that was a change of position as Nick Kelly's been handed a 5-second time penalty there. So I don't know whether maybe that was a jump start. I'm not quite sure.
All right, we'll find out from Motorsport Australia, and a shout out to all our officials, stewards, and also to our volunteers that make this weekend happen. Peter Paddon is in second place at the moment, chasing down that man, Cooper Cuts. Avern in third from Russell, Kelly, Brame, Clare, Knowles, Reindler, Morris, and Fuhrmeister.
Pause, break. Thank you.
So the margin now out to 3.5 seconds, a little bit over. So this is really impressive from Cooper Cuts. The man who started from the pole, as he did in Phillip Island, backing it up here. For those that weren't with us for the opening round of the Shannon Speed Series for 2025, it was wild and willing at Phillip Island, not just the weather. Cuts and Paddon, opening race of the season, making contact down on their way into Southern Loop. 5-second penalty for Paddon. Both outstanding gentlemen, but so different in terms of where they're at in their careers. And I love the storyline, the East versus West. It's the two big teams that make up our grid here in terms of Gulf Walton Racing and Arise Racing, and it's the old and the young, and very different personalities, but both just super friendly guys that love their racing. There's Brad Russell at the front of this pack, sitting in fourth at the moment.
Just on that contact that they had at Phillip Island, well, how much contact did they have through turn 1 into turn number 2? So Paddon was really trying to pressure Cuts there into turn 2 and squeeze him to the inside, so Paddon could then go back to the outside and try and effectively either do a switchback or go right around the outside. But Cuts was kind of all over that and managed to hold on for the lead, and that's paid dividends because he's now got a 4.5-second lead over Paddon. And just on that penalty with Nick Kelly, Tim Edgel, who's gone back into the lane, he's also got a 5-second penalty to his name as well. So
false start.
There you have it.
Just come through now as you speak. So for car 34 and 99, as you say, Kelly and Edgel, 5-second penalty for false start. So you said rolling starts are lively, but they didn't quite listen to you well enough on the PA around here as they were going out there as to how to follow the rules.
Normally when the helmet goes on, Stubbsy, your hearing goes down a tad. You're not quite listening to everything, but that could have been that getting out of the grid box. Maybe they were a little bit too far to the left or too far to the right and out of that grid box. So that could be what it's for. As there is Tim Edgel.
Yeah, that's a shame,
lane.
Isn't it?
That's the second time that he's been in the lane in this session. So I don't know whether they've got some form of issue, clearly. So he's just, looks like he's going to rejoin the field. But yeah, Cooper Cuts at the moment. 5-second margin now. We've just got under 9 minutes remaining. So that clear air is paying dividends for him. So he'd be very happy that he got the jump at the start.
So 25-minute race. We have just under 9 minutes remaining for the opening race of the weekend here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and it is Cooper Cuts who leads the way. He trails by 3 points in the championship, but so far, so good. So that margin now, 5.2 seconds. And of course, across the 4 races with tyre allocations and strategy, there is a little bit to play for understanding exactly who's keeping what tyres for when, and the strategy and way that they will use those. The Radicals will race again later today. Won't quite be under lights, but they'll open our evening session. We have an officials break at 2:30 local time this afternoon, and then the evening starts with the second race for the First Focus Radical Cup Australia.
He's driving that car very well, isn't he, Cooper Cutts?
When you say that, what are you seeing?
I guess what you can see is the body language of the car, and it's obviously also performing to how he wants as well. So no general understeer, and the rear looks quite stable on the way in. And I mean, he's probably just managing that gap now, and he'd be very comfortable knowing that there'd be 7.5 minutes remaining. But as he tips it in to turn number 11, the beautiful thing about these cars, because they're open, we can see into them a bit more and see a bit of that body language and the movement of the car and what he's doing with the steering wheel from our great TV shots that we get around the circuit here. And at the moment he's still in the low 130s, which we're 8 laps into the race now. So Paddon and Cutts trading lap times at the moment, 30.1 versus 30.2. But like I said, Cutts knows he's 5 seconds in front, just managing the gap now. And that's going to be really good points as well, heading into race 2 and for the championship.
Absolutely, 45 points for the win, 2 points for the pole, so already in the back pocket for Cutts. 1 point for the fastest lap, so he has that in his pocket as well. Every point counts, as we saw last year. So Reindler got through there on Clare, so that's moved him up to 7th. Clare now has Terry Knowles behind him in the green machine. I love me a little bit of British racing green on a race car.
Reminds me of Jaguar or like an Aston Martin as well. Yeah. So very nice colour green there. And just looking at the timing as well. So Nick Kelly's got that 5-second penalty lingering over him at the moment, and that would only drop him down at the moment 2 positions. So Chris Reindler, he's about 4.9 seconds behind Kelly. So I would say at the moment, probably worst case is that Nick will just drop 1 position, which is not all too bad. But now that Reindler's got that move done on Clare, he's just set his fastest first sector of the race. So he might try and claw back a bit of that time. But yeah, we've got this battle at the moment between Clare and Knowles. That's about a 0.3 of a second margin, or now it's just dropped under 0.2. So there's a few nice little battles at the moment out there.
And this is Brad Russell on screen at the moment. New bubblegum livery, as he's calling it. A bit of fun. You can't miss it, can you, in the Bradical? And he had a problem yesterday, had a small shunt. And so they did the repair job, stuck it back together, and he's our leading AM, so he's doing an outstanding job. So,
just on that, Brame has just got that move done on Chris Reindler as well. So that must have happened probably in the last sector there. So that's moved him up now into 6th. And he's only about, 0.3 of a second behind. Well, that might be a timing glitch, sorry. Looks like that's as it was before, so sorry about those folks at home.
No, a few little gremlins in the timing system. So at the moment, this is the battle here of Brame and Kelly. So Kelly, as you've touched on, with the 5 seconds, so that's not a problem for Brame. Obviously, that margin is well less than 5 seconds. Brame has been super impressive today, the former New South Wales champ returning. Wasn't here for the opening round of the season, but a front runner at the end of 24, and that pace has continued. Loves it here. Sydney Motorsport Park was 4th for the round when we last raced here, which was only in October, so it's a pretty quick turnaround.
And that's the battle right there on screen between Kelly and Brame. And I'm sure they would have radioed in and said, hey, just so you know, Kelly's got a 5-second penalty, so you can just sit here, not risk an overtake or a potential coming together or something, and you're going to gain that position. So, and that the gap from Brame to Reindler is about 3.5 seconds. So Reindler's made a bit of ground on Kelly. So that's going to probably make that position switch once the penalty gets applied. So Reindler is about, he was 0.2 of a second faster than Kelly on that lap. So, and here we go. It looks like Brame's trying to now put a move onto Kelly as Kelly shuts the door. And Kelly's probably thinking, hey, I know I've got that penalty, but I still don't want to let you pass. I want to try and have as much clean air as possible and still do some decent lap times so I don't lose as much on the track. But Brame's just putting the pressure on him at the moment.
Well, and that's the last thing that Kelly needs, isn't it, when you're trying to set the fastest possible lap time, to have someone like Brame right in behind you, pressuring you, watching you for every single move that you make. As Brame, speaking of moves, has a little look, but not to be. Brame will be wanting to get past Kelly, of course, because not too much further up the road there is Brad Russell. And we've got just under 3 minutes left to go. So up the inside, perhaps at 8. No, not quite close enough that time round. He is going to run out of laps if he's not careful. So Brame all over the back of Kelly for now in this battle for 5th position. And out in front, the gap 5.2 seconds. Just now under 5 at our last sector.
And Kelly has had it. If you exclude the penalty, he's moved up 5 positions in this race too. So he's been having a cracking race at the moment. But yeah, that penalty now, that's going to drop him to 7th as it stands, because Reindler is doing some decent lap times at the moment. He was nearly a second faster than Kelly on that last lap. So that gap is now about 2.5 seconds between 5th and 7th. So I think the gap to 8th will be fine. Clare's another 7 seconds back from that. So he won't drop too much. He'll still finish higher than where he started.
So return back to our leader in Cooper Cuts, 22 years of age. The young West Australian, runner-up last year in that battle. And as we touched on in qualifying earlier today, he is a very smart cookie, multi-skilled, working not only for the family business, but on his racing career. At uni as well, studying commerce, so a business degree as well as contemporary music at the University of WA. He's in a couple of bands, likes a bit of top 40. We won't hold that against him, because he also said he likes a bit of old school rock like Kiss. So he's covering all bases.
He's got a wide palette.
That's it. And he's a very, very good racing car driver, that is for sure. So just on 1 minute to go, turn 8. It's getting close here. There's a spin. He's gone around. So that's 1 position at least that he will lose there, Terry Knowles, if not multiple more. Sorry, it will be. Yes. Here's on the replay. So it's Clare in behind and just lost the rears.
He just might have just gassed it up a little bit too early there with all that steering lock on, and the front's gripped up and the rears said, I can't give you the grip that you want. So he's ended up on the outside of the track there, and no harm, no foul, no contact with anyone else. But yeah, he's just dropped, 2 positions there. So that's 3 positions, 4 positions. So that's unfortunately been a bit of a costly mistake for him with basically 20 seconds left in this race. So they'll get this lap and you'd say 1 more. So those rear tyres doing a little bit more work than what they probably would have liked in this race. As we look back at our leader, Cooper Cuts, you can see the licorice touch there from Terry Knowles at his left. And
Terry will not be happy. He had an off turn 1 in the first race at Phillip Island, and now he's had a moment here as well. He's our leading master by 6 points, so that's going to hurt potentially as well there in the standings for our masters, our radical masters. Remember, we have our different classes, our rookies, masters, the challenge for the AMs. We have a range of different spec cars here as well. Something for everyone at First Focus Radical Cup Australia. So we're reaching our concluding stages of this one as Cooper Cuts heads around for the last time in our opening race of the GT Festival Sydney. Just got to keep it clean. There would be a few nerves, you would think, to open the encounter for this weekend. Just nursing it home, but it's an easier job when you've got a margin of almost 5 seconds.
He's just setting the tone early for the weekend, isn't he, Stubbsy? So they've both been throwing punches so far this year, Phillip Island, and like you said, it was such a close finish in the championship last year as well. So this is the first blow to the championship challenge for this weekend.
A little bit of traffic to deal with. Gets up the inside of Sue Hughes, who's been racing for decades, very experienced campaigner. She would have been well aware that Cooper was coming past. The blue flags would have been out and nicely managed by her. The last thing you want to be doing is a last lap getting in the way of a leader of a race, especially when it's someone who will take the championship lead at its conclusion.
Yeah, correct. And I mean, he's got a 4.5 second margin, so he can afford to not risk passing her in a dangerous position around the track and just make sure he gets around her cleanly. And she's having a good race out there at the moment as well. So as we see Cooper Cuts exit the final corner for the final time of the first race of the first Focus Radical Cup Australia. He'll be first in the first Focus Radical Cup Australia, taking the spoils over Peter Paddon.
So Cooper Cutts gets the job done. This battle continues. It's Cutts by 5 seconds almost from his great rival in Peter Paddon. Youth coming out on top in the battle today. The number 16 will be absolutely thrilled. He started from pole, he's converted that. He takes also the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. So 2 for pole, 1 for the fastest lap, 45 for the win. And that will count in the final count as we get towards the championship, if last year is anything to go by. Cutts over Paddon. Ruairdah Avern rounding out our podium for the opening race of the weekend. Outstanding effort from him, starting from 8th from Russell, Kelly, Brame, Reindler, Clare, Fuhrmeister, Morris. In the end there, Terry Knowles after that spin with just a couple of laps to go. He fought on hard, personal best sectors for his final lap, but he finished 12th. From Medland Hadid, one of our internationals. And the others just finishing off their race now. So Cutts, that was a clean race, but it all came down to the opening couple of corners really in many ways. So confirmation of the race 1 results. First Focus Radical Cup Australia. Cooper Cutts, the first win of the weekend. He'll take over the championship lead from his rival Peter Paddon, who was second today. Ruairdah Avern rounding out the podium. Russell, Kelly, Brame on his return. Reindler, Clare, Fuhrmeister in 9th. Warwick Morris rounding out the top 10. From Hernandez, Knowles, Hadid, Allen, Medland, Hannah, Church, Sue Hughes in 18th, Ivory, and then Edgell having some issues in that race. Tommy Randall will take a look at some of the race highlights for the opening clash of the weekend. It all came down to this.
It did, and this set the scene. Cooper Cutts immediately trying to cover and hold Paddon around the outside at turn number 1, and they were just banging wheels all the way down as we saw a few cars that had this off. We didn't know whether there was something on the track or a bit of grass got flown up, dirt or whatever, but 3 cars went synchronised spinning and all managed to survive. We saw Tim Edgell was in the pits early with some sort of issue, and that was that attempted move that Reindler put onto what was Terry Knowles at the time. And Cooper Cutts out in front, held the lead from turn 1 and turn 2, and never looked back. And it was a great drive from Avern as well, from 8th up to 3rd. And there was a few 5-second time penalties for some false starts as well, Stubbsy.
There was. This was the great battle. It was Brame who was sliding, dicing, wheeling and dealing, and managed to finally get the job done on Nick Kelly. But what a great battle it was between the two of them. And out in front, Cooper Cutts, the West Australian, too strong. Terry Knowles had his spin in the concluding stages to let Clare past, as well as Fuhrmeister among some others. But Cooper Cutts, we have a new series leader for the first Focus Radical Cup Australia, and it is Cutts. He takes the first win of the weekend. Race 1, Sydney Motorsport Park for the Shannon Speed Series and the first Focus Radical Cup Australia. Let's get down to Bella.
Thanks so much. Yes, I'm joined alongside our race winner in Cooper Cutts, and he's got his helmet on. Sorry, Cooper, we're just bringing you straight out of the car. How satisfying was that? A pole position, a win, and now on top of the championship as well?
No, it was really good. All of last season, we really struggled for like pure lap pace, and we always had the pace in the race, but we seem to have nailed it this weekend. So it's good to get back on top in the championship. So great start to the year. Yeah,
so what has changed heading into this weekend?
I don't really know. I mean, our car's got different colours on it this year, so it could be the car livery. I don't really know. I know the team's been really good this year. We've changed a lot with the setup and mindset and all that, so it's all just coming together, I think.
Well done, and good luck for the rest of the weekend.
Thank you. Thanks.
And I can move around here. We've just had Peter Paddon jumping out of the car. Peter, if we'd be able to just grab you for a quick word. Yeah, sure. What did you make of that second place finish? How do you assess that race?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a fun start, but then yeah, it was a bit of a nothing race. I was sort of by myself for the whole race, managing tyres for the whole race, looking at the gap behind, which got bigger, and the gap in front, which was getting bigger. So I was kind of by myself.
And how do you adjust for the rest of the weekend? Yeah,
it's a good question. You're going to have to try something different. So we might mess around with some setup changes. Yeah, we've been struggling to find where the extra pace has come from in the other car that we're fighting against. So, yeah, we'll need to make some changes and see where we end up.
All right, well, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot.
We'll move around here to third position, just jumping out of the car. We'll come around. Would we be able to grab you for a quick chat?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can't hear me? Get the helmet off. So just standing by. There we go. Sorry, spring you straight out of the car. Third place finish, how satisfying was that?
Yeah, it's pretty satisfying. Obviously, we didn't have the best quali, so to come back in race one was pretty awesome. Just because we're slower in quali doesn't mean we're going to let everyone drive away in race one.
Oh, well done and congratulations.
Cheers, thank you very much. Cheers.